The Toronto Raptors start out 2026 with a victory. They are now 1-0 in this, and they are 3-0 against the Atlanta Hawks, heading for 4-0 on Monday night. What do the Toronto Raptors do so well against this Atlanta Hawks team? First of all, shout outs to you guys. Happy 2026. I hope this time off was good for you. It certainly seemed this time off was good for the Toronto Raptors because they had a lot of juice in their legs. This time off also seemed to be very good for Brandon Ingram, who had probably his best downhill explosive game today. And again, not playing basketball for 8 months. It's a rhythm thing, right? You gotta get your timing back. You don't want to push it too much. You don't trust your body completely. You've had a slew of injuries. You don't want to disappoint a new fan base. You're on a 2-year plus one prove it deal. So clearly, this is the best that Brandon Ingram has looked, in my opinion. He looked absolutely unstoppable. The Hawks tried to do whatever they wanted. He could do whatever he wanted against them. He really There was no answer for Brandon Ingram tonight for the Atlanta Hawks. Also, the Atlanta Hawks are a really, really good example of why the box score is lying to you. Number one, people who think that Jalen Johnson is some sort of superstar, he's not. He's a good young player, perfectly going to out earn that $30 million a year flat contract that he got with the Atlanta Hawks. That is not a superstar. I don't know if you know what a superstar looks like, but that ain't it. Okay. And while he may be an all-star this year, largely due to the numbers, it's certainly not because of the defense. And I think it's like, it's so funny. I'm a big Jalen Johnson guy. I was a big Dyson Daniels guy for many, many years. But watching how much people overreact to their success has made me like bearish on those guys. Like Dyson hasn't been a great defender this year. I don't know what to tell you. He's not great. He's good. He's certainly better than the average wing defender, but he's not great this year, right? And I think the Hawks are a great example of like why numbers shouldn't be trusted. Like the average box score should be banned, right? Because so much is happening on the basketball court that creates every offensive and defensive possession, momentum, timing, so much, right? The Toronto Raptors come out today and they can't really seem to get a stop, right? And it wasn't for a lack of trying necessarily. It's just the rhythm of this game was very up and down. And very much the pace sort of favored the Hawks. And you were thinking to yourself, like, man, I hope the Raptors aren't in a close game in the fourth quarter because, the Raptors' fourth quarter offense has been really, really, really bad. All year, it's been really bad. The numbers are not lying to you. The Toronto Raptors are a bottom six fourth quarter offense on the year. Over the past 15 games, this game not included, they've been a bottom two fourth quarter offense. Over the last 15 games, a lot without Jakob Poeltl, a lot without RJ Barrett. They have managed an offensive rating less than 100 in the fourth quarter. You've got bigger problems than the Atlanta Hawks and whether or not Brandon Ingram and RJ Barrett are playing well. You've got a functional issue with your fourth quarter offense, pecking order, stagnation, bad habits, bad tendencies, these kind of things. So I was very curious to see which version of this team would show up in the fourth quarter. You have a team on the ropes. You're up marginally, right? But you're leaking a little bit of oil. That third quarter comes around. It's been a track meet the whole game, but now it's like you should have thrown a knockout blow at some point, but they keep getting open for threes. They hit 8 threes in that third quarter. They beat you in the third quarter. And you're thinking to yourself here, man, I hope they approach the fourth quarter with the right energy. The wrong energy would be stagnant, pound, 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 dribble, 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 the air out of the basketball, become very predictable, flatten out the defense for Brandon Ingram isolations, RJ Barrett 1-on-4 drives, Scottie Barnes, isolation possessions, turnarounds. This has not worked. This has not worked all year. The offense getting super away from what it does. I mean, shoot, the Raptors have not been a bad offense for most of the season. It's only the last 15 games. They certainly haven't been a bad defense at any point this season. So There's no reason for them to have a 99 offensive rating in the fourth quarter over a month. That should just never happen. And no, RJ Barrett was out, Jakob Poeltl's out. No, this is a process thing. And the Raptors tonight, I think, played one of their better fourth quarters of the year. And that to me is the win. It doesn't matter so much to me that you win this game against the Hawks because I don't really think very much of the Hawks. Even without Trae Young, I don't think very much of this team. Obviously, you lose this game, we're having a very bad conversation because now you're 2-2 on a, on a home stretch where you probably should be 3-2, or sorry, 2-2 on a home stretch where you should probably be at least 3-1, or maybe even 4-0 given the fact that you won the first two games. The Raptors obviously went into New Year's with a very sour taste in their mouth. Buzzer beater doesn't count. The game winner attempt or game tying attempt by RJ Barrett doesn't go in. You played well enough to win that game. Again, the previous game, not to dwell in the past because that's 2025, but that Nuggets game was a great example of how you can actually win a game and still lose it. The Raptors won that game. They did everything right, but yet they didn't command the game. They didn't have a lead for most of the game, and a lot of it came down to the bench. A lot of it came down to making and missing shots, and a lot of it came down to critical errors down the stretch. And the Raptors today cleaned up on a lot of that. First, they completely changed who their bench was. So that's one thing that completely changed tonight because the Toronto Raptors start Collin Murray-Boyles, not Ochai Agbaji. That's a step in the right direction. That is a huge step in the right direction. I think because number one, I don't think Ochai is anywhere near the defender that Collin is. Number two, I think Collin can mimic much more between Collin and Scottie. You can at least mimic something close to what a center is supposed to provide in terms of rim defense and rebounding. I do think this was the obvious choice all along. And I don't know why it's taken so long to get to this element, like get to this point. The numbers on the season between Scottie and CMB when they are on the court together with even one positive shooter, be that BI, Sandro, you can go down the list. The numbers are incredible. These two are, they're your two last top 10 picks on your roster, and they work. They work together. A lot of people said the pick didn't make sense because they're too similar. I disagree. I think it actually makes a lot of sense because they work so well together defensively and offensively. They're both so smart that it can all work. So I was glad to see CMB get the start, and I think it paid off immediately. Again, in that third quarter, things get dicey. You lose the third quarter, and it all came down to how are you going to respond in the fourth quarter. And as it pertains to the Toronto Raptors, they played some incredible defense in the fourth quarter. They held the Atlanta Hawks to 11 points in the fourth quarter. RJ Barrett was locking up. Scottie Barnes was locking up. Grady Dick was participating defensively. Everyone who stepped on the court in the fourth quarter should be very, very proud of themselves because you took a team that was dead ass tired, played last night, won last night against the New York Knicks, and absolutely took their lunch. You pressed your foot against their neck at exactly the time when they were starting to break. And yeah, there was a little bit of a lull around the 6-minute mark. You got up big. Nickeil Alexander-Walker hits a shot. Jalen Johnson hits a shot. And you're like, uh-oh, here comes a totally improbable collapse. But the Raptors put the foot right back on the neck again. It was a back-to-back. I think it was back-to-back turnovers by Brandon Ingram. Darko calls a timeout, immediately subs Scottie Barnes back in. And immediately you got like some incredibly exciting basketball today. You got some incredibly high octane, smooth, beautiful basketball. You got alley-oops, okay? You got dunks. You got threes. You got a damn near triple-double from Sandro Mamukelashvili. In terms of ways that you could start out the season, this is about as good as it gets, man. In terms of the box score, you get 29 efficient as hell points from Brandon Ingram on 11 for 15 shooting. You get RJ Barrett with 29 points on 11 for 19 shooting, 4 for 8 from 3. Very nice. At least a starting lineup leading. Well, actually, no, not starting lineup leading. That was Emmanuel Quickley with plus 20, but second among starters with plus 13. Collin Murray-Boyles started the game out, I think, with a good amount of energy, a good amount of energy, but missed that bunny at the rim. Didn't attempt any threes last night. If you remember last game, he attempted four, no threes attempted, no free throws attempted. But like he's kind of making a habit of like getting on the glass and being this incredibly disruptive offensive rebounding force. Wasn't really the case tonight, but there just weren't a lot of offensive rebounds to get because the Raptors made a lot of freaking shots. They made 53% of their field goals tonight, 39% of their threes, and 92%. That 50-40-90 club? The Toronto Raptors were basically in the 50-40-90 club today. The offense was just humming. They barely missed shots, and everything was just smooth. It was really smooth. The only player who really sticks out as being like subpar in terms of the efficiency department is really Mamukelashvili, who went 5 for 13 tonight and 2 for 8 from 3. But other than him, everyone was scoring. And there's a couple of reasons why everyone was scoring. Number one, I don't think the offense was as forced tonight. The offense went a lot through connective conduits for good offense, like Scottie Barnes and Sandro Mamukelashvili. Not a lot of like crazy over dribbling by Emmanuel quickly, which is always good. Always good. When the ball kind of leaves his hands a little bit, he can swing off of it, come off a screen, come off a pin down, get away from it, get back to it. It's always a little bit better than, here quickly, do something for us. If nothing else, I would say other teams are super successful in the zone against the Raptors precisely because Quickly makes such terrible decisions. I don't want to blame the guy like he's the boogeyman for everything that's wrong with the Raptors. He's not everything that's wrong with the Raptors, but you need him to be so much better than he really is right now. And you need him to be good at things that he's objectively not good at. So, like, I think a part of this live that I would like to explore at least, right, beyond the numbers, right? Because, Scottie had a decent game, 27 and 4. Nothing really. Like, I mean, Sandro Mamukelashvili 13, 12, and 8, with 3 blocks, which was very impressive, and a team leading plus 27. You really felt his presence on the court. Grady, as I mentioned before, I really liked his overall approach to this game today. A lot of physicality, a lot of rebounding, crashing on the glass, picking the ball away. He had a steal. Did he get credited with a steal? He did get credited with a steal. He did get a nice steal. He got 2 offensive rebounds. He was just more tenacious with with his possessions, which I really like. And Jacoby, he gets 5 points off the bench. Jamal Shead has a nice bounce back game after the last game, hits 2 threes, has 10 points off the bench. Seemed to be favoring his hand or his thumb at some point in this game, but no biggie on that one. But yeah, I mean, the other thing here is the Hawks shot 44%. So your defense definitely is going to be compromised without Jakob Poeltl, but putting CMB in the starting lineup is definitely a step in the right direction for me. 46 percent from the field, giving up 46% from the field, 44% from 3, putting the other team at the line 19 times, which I think a lot of those were gifted, to be honest. I think the Raptors got fouled a lot more tonight and they were the more aggressive team. I think RJ went to the line, went to the basket a few times and could have been fouls. Scottie definitely got fouled quite a few times, didn't call it. But overall, the Raptors get their 28 assists. And this is interesting because the Raptors usually don't have a lot of success when they don't clip 30 assists. And tonight they did. So it kind of goes to say like shot making will clean up a lot of process issues that you have. There's a lot to clean up in this game. And the one thing I would really like to discuss is how RJ Barrett changes how defenses can guard you, because I think that it is important to have a nuanced discussion about RJ Barrett, given everything that people have been talking about the last few days. Obviously, I could not help myself, with that Denver Nuggets 3 shots, Rudy Gay, little reel that I made on New Year's Day. Probably not the greatest idea. Obviously, a lot of people, take offense to that. But it is a guy who's not a great pull-up shooter taking 3 pull-up jump shots with the game on the line and over and over having the same result, which is a miss, miss, and miss against the same team, and the Raptors lose all 3 games. Hey, man, I thought last year the Raptors were trying to lose games, so I don't really care about it. But this year the Raptors are trying to win games. Why are we going for RJ pull-ups? But pull-up jump shooting is not why RJ Barrett helps this offense. So first and foremost, why do teams not zone up if it's so effective, right? Zones should never work in the NBA. If a zone defense works against your team for multiple possessions in a row, we're not talking like 2 possessions to disrupt the rhythm. We're talking like 18, 19, 20 possessions in a game. If that's happening to your team, there's 3 pretty obvious things that are wrong with your team. Number 1, you don't have shooters to punish the zone. Number 2, you don't have athletes who can attack the zone. And number 3, you don't have a proper process to attack the zone, which is to say your decision making is flawed. Most teams we can take for granted have sufficient shooting, athleticism, and decision making intelligence to completely destroy a zone defense, which is why teams don't play zone against most teams. So why is it that one random decision by Eric Spoelstra to play zone defense against the Raptors in a game which the Miami Heat lost, by the way? Why is it that other teams have just picked up on this tendency and have continuously done it over and over and over? And why are they so successful at it? Why are they keeping going to it? And how might the Raptors maybe have a problem with zone defense, which is just a crazy thing to say? I feel like if zone is like, I feel like zone shouldn't even work in high school, man. I don't like when teams zoned up against us, it was such an easy swing to the other side, find the open shooter, attack the middle. Like it's such an easy concept. And no team should be so defensively gifted. Like, I mean, obviously, if there's, hey man, if the OKC Thunder want to play zone, power to you. But they're not going to be successful because they're playing zone or playing a hybrid matchup zone. They're going to be successful because they're a great defensive team. An average defensive team or below average defensive team like Miami or Atlanta should not be able to cover up their defensive inefficiency by playing zone. See, there's a difference between OKC plays zone, Chet, iHeart, Case and Wallace, Lou Dort, different situation versus Atlanta with Jalen Johnson and Trae Young playing zone. And the Raptors may see Trae Young on Monday night. So what is it? Number one, I think your well, first of all, the zone leaves corners open and leaves middle gaps open. This is almost always the case, right? So the corners will almost always result in shooters getting way too clean a look. NBA shooters do not need that much space. If you have players like Max Strus, if you have players like Duncan Robinson, those are the types of guys who destroy zones and go on like 9-0 runs in like in a minute. So teams are reluctant to play zone because it can possibly result in a shooter getting super hot and the game becoming a blowout in 3 possessions, which is why teams are very reluctant to play it. Number 2, this idea of like attacking the middle. The decision making has to be to attack the zone from the middle because the zone is most vulnerable in the middle. And so having a good decision maker in the middle of the zone, like a Scottie Barnes, helps. Unfortunately, very often when the Raptors have seen zone, it's very hard for Scottie to get to the middle, either because he himself cannot navigate the dribble to get there, or his teammates are reluctant to find him there. But very often you'll see the Raptors struggle 2, 3, 4 possessions against the zone, and then immediately they will get the middle. They'll get the ball in the middle to Scottie Barnes, and he'll find a cutter at the basket or a shooter open for 3. The quality of looks that the Raptors get against the zone is the most concerning part. It's not that the teams that they're facing consistently go to it. It's not that they go to it so often. It's just that the quality of looks that the Raptors generate against the zone is so poor that you are giving other teams impetus or, reason to go back to it over and over. And this should never be. So, number one, the problem is, of course, a lack of shooting talent. There's always a couple of players that you can play off of. CMB, Scottie, RJ, Jamal, Shead. You have too many non-shooters on this team. A roster issue that you should presumably fix at some point before the trade deadline. Jakob Poeltl as well. Elijah Martin as well. There's just too many guys that I am not scared are going to hurt me in this zone. So that in and of itself emboldens me to try this out without the consequence of, oh my God, this shooter is going to go off for a 9-0 run by himself. Can't do that against Duncan Robinson, but apparently you can do that against Grady Dick and Jakob Poeltl. So the Raptors desperately need a sharp shooter. And the closest thing they have to a automatic sharp shooter is probably Jamison Battle. But beyond that, it's really just slim pickings. I don't think if we compiled a list of the top 30 shooters in the NBA, I'm inclined to say Jamison Battle might sneak on that list, but it's hard to think of another Raptor that would get consideration on that list other than maybe Emmanuel Quickly. And with Emmanuel Quickly, I think so often his issue becomes he isn't off ball in that zone. So this is why the positive progression of Brandon Ingram suddenly hitting a lot of threes is really, really important for the Raptors because that is one counter to the zone. The thing that hurts you against the zone is because those gaps are open, ideally one of your perimeter players can now attack the gap to go downhill. But Grady doesn't finish well enough. Scottie doesn't move fast enough. Ingram doesn't move. Whoops. Ingram doesn't move fast enough. Just drop the mic there. My bad. Did I just say Grady doesn't move fast enough and then drop the mic? My bad. Grady doesn't move fast enough. Jacoby doesn't handle well enough. Mamu is like one guy who consistently attacks it, like, but it's usually off the swing, off the catch, but it's not like off a live dribble. So it's just like, do you know how easy it is to find a player who can destroy a zone? Like Jordan Clarkson could destroy a zone. Colin Sexton could destroy a zone. Like you go tiers up, and Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, of course, destroys zones left, right, and center. Steph Castle, Dylan Harper, like Malik Monk. There's so many. There's so many players that can do this. This one thing that the Raptors don't seem to have. Kobe White, Josh Giddey, to some extent, can even do it. But for whatever reason, the Raptors just don't have this type of guy who just shifts into tight spaces and attacks the rim and does so explosively. Jonathan Kuminga is a great zone buster in terms of like, if you're just Jordan Poole, I can go down the list. I mean, you can go straight down to scrubs. Okay. Scrubs, like real scrubs. Cam Whitmore. Just need athletes. You need athletes with a little bit of speed and a little bit of wiggle and maybe just that ability to bullet through a gap. But you don't have that. Every one of your players kind of slow grinds their ass to the basket. So you don't have that. And then very, very often what ends up happening is Emmanuel quickly ends up making decisions against the zone, which is like the worst thing for your offense because he doesn't find advantages and he doesn't attack off a live dribble. The solution to this is very simple. Stop playing lineups with multiple downhill guys, multiple shooting liabilities. One. Number two, invest at some point in somebody on your roster who can attack a zone because Jamal Shead is too predictable. Like he is the one guy who who actually has the speed to go attack it, and you often see that he does, but he's not assertive enough as a scorer. And he's not good enough as a finisher to actually punish it. So that's the other thing. This is where we come into RJ Barrett because this is what RJ Barrett does. This is what he lives for, right? Swing, 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 corner three, RJ Barrett. Swing, swing, middle, attack, cut, RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett is the closest thing that the Raptors have to a zone buster. No, he's not a great three-point shooter. No, he's not a great finisher. But what he is a guy who can fit in to tight gaps and he takes and makes open shots. That's what it is. RJ Barrett is really good at beating zones. Jakob Poeltl is also really helpful against the zone because he is a big 7-footer who can get to the middle, flash in the middle of the zone, and make decisions out of those situations. Domantas Sabonis and Nikola Jokic, he is not. But this, in and of itself, I think is something that the Raptors will solve. I don't think this is going to become like a permanent Achilles heel for the Toronto Raptors where you get to the playoffs and suddenly you're like, oh my God, I don't know how we're going to deal with the Milwaukee Bucks zone. I don't think it's going to be that much. But I do think that RJ Barrett's return in and of itself, I argued this the entire time he was out, is not going to single-handedly solve your offense. But he does more good than bad, especially relative to the players that he's replacing. Way more good than bad. It's not like your defense jumped up levels without him. We can all agree that there are better defenders than him on this team. There might be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 better defenders than him on this team. The issue is you're not exactly holding OG Anunoby or Herb Jones on the bench here. You know what I mean? There's not like that level of impact defender. Yes, Jacoby and Grady, well, not Grady, Jacoby and Ochai are marginally better defenders, but they're not like 8 levels better defenders, 6 levels better defenders. And so, yes, the Raptors lineup is best when RJ Barrett is playing and doing well. Does that mean that this is going to be the best version of this team going forward? Well, I think for now, based on what you can get, what you have, yeah, I think this is gonna have to be the way it works. The Raptors' best stretch of basketball came when RJ Barrett was playing really good basketball and Scottie was playing good basketball and BI was playing good basketball. Or actually, BI was kind of playing basketball when the Raptors were playing great basketball. You know, he was doing his thing, he was drawing double teams, he was making shots, but he wasn't making his threes, and the Raptors were rolling. Go check Brandon Ingram's three-point shooting percentage during that 9-game win streak that the Raptors had. He wasn't shooting that well. He's shooting better now. So there is a version of this that should get better. Like, as the season goes on, this should get better. This is not an easy thing to stop. Like, think about yourself from the opposing defensive standpoint. You are now having to choose whether to guard Scottie Barnes or RJ Barrett with your third best perimeter defender. This is a recipe for disaster. And in and of itself, this should be a further indictment on why Emmanuel Quickley probably needs to get traded. Because if nothing else, you're drawing their weakest defender on a nightly basis. You're never getting double teamed. They're giving you anything you want, and somehow you're still not scoring. This is like, can you imagine what a Kyrie Irving would do in this position? Can you imagine what a De'Aaron Fox would do in the position? Or even a Darius Garland from last year? Right? Tyler one later said RJ defense is pretty bad still. He looks pretty okay today. You know, he's had his moments. He's had his moments. He has limitations. There are certain matchups he doesn't do well with. And there's definitely going to be limitations against, you know, scoring over length, stuff like that. But tonight, you know, you get a team that I don't think Scottie played that well. Did Scottie play that well? Scottie played okay. In the fourth quarter, when the Raptors turned it on defensively, I think Scottie had a huge, huge hand in that. But for the first like half, did Scottie play that well? Nah, he didn't play that well, man. These are just numbers. These numbers, right? The only player I'm willing to say, like the only 2-3 players that I would say like played super, super great today. I would say BI played super great today. Mamu played super great today. I think RJ played well today. You know, so many things that he does, you know, like attacking in transition, getting out early, being that sort of efficient and again, compact. The closest thing you have to like that Christian Brown, Bruce Brown archetype, you know, on your team, that connective passer who can make reads in the short roll, can make connective passes, can also do a little bit with the basketball, isn't totally lost if you hand them a basketball. Like right now, I'm like a little bit disappointed because Jacoby's one of my favorite young players in the league, but man, like him and Grady and Ochai are totally useless when they get the basketball in their hands. Like asking them to create an advantage off a live dribble is really scary shit. Because if they're not grabbing it and going right to the rim or grabbing it and putting up, like if they're asked to do anything other than that, like Grady, hop, little step back, sidestep, fadeaway, miss, guaranteed all the time, miss, right? So you just don't have wings with ball skills. I mentioned this before. The Raptors play small and receive none of the benefits of playing small. Most teams go small because they get more talent on the court. Like when Indiana goes with a lineup of TJ McConnell and Andrew Nemhard, they get defensive dogs on the court, first of all. And two, they get 3 players who can dribble, pass, shoot, and attack defenses. The Raptors do not get that with Ochai Agbaji. They do not get that with Grady Dick. So my thought process here for the Raptors is if you're going to be small, actually commit to being talented with your small players. If you're not going to commit to being ball talented or ball skills talented, then you need to become bigger because you're reaping it's like you're shooting yourself in the hand and then deciding, you know how I can fix the pain in my hand? I'll shoot myself in the foot too, right? It was interesting today. Another opportunity for Mo Bamba to get on the court. Didn't get on the court today. I mean, he ended up playing garbage time. Did he score? I don't think he scored. I don't remember him scoring at all. So Mo Bamba goes scoreless in his second appearance with the Raptors. Goes 0 for 2 tonight. At least he took a shot this time. Last time he did not get a shot up. but goes 0 for 2 tonight. No threes attempted. He'll be fine, man. Taylor Tyler later said, "What did Jack say about Penn?" I don't think Jack was necessarily talking to me, but I think he said, like, "Who are these people who like don't appreciate RJ Barrett's game?" Well, I don't know, Jack. Who are these people who don't appreciate Scottie's game? No. I mean, the more I've gone forward with my understanding of basketball, the more I read into it, the more I learn, challenge my own beliefs, the more I realize I don't necessarily know if Jack Armstrong understands basketball super well. You know, the way that he describes, like, the way he describes Jalen Johnson kind of gives me an understanding that I don't really know if he knows what he's looking at. But that's cool, man. I've listened to him call games for a large part of my life, man. We're talking like half my life has been covered with like Jack Armstrong talking about basketball, talking about players that I watch on a night to night basis. And, I think I learned a lot in like 2005, 2006, 2007 when I was watching him. I think I learned a lot about, simple things that maybe, were a little bit new to me at that point. But I think around 2011, 2012, the more I started like, because I was writing at the time about basketball, so I started to dig deeper, started interviewing coaches that I thought understood the game, and the more I learned, the more I just kind of fell off of thinking Jack Armstrong really understood what he was talking about. So now, I mean, occasionally he'll say something that I'm like, "Oh, I'm glad someone said that. That makes sense." But very often, I don't think he's right. I don't think he's completely caught on to where the game is gone. So that's cool, man. But yes, RJ Barrett is a good basketball player. He's a very good basketball player. Is he the right basketball player for this team? Honestly, time will tell. It does create spacing issues. But again, just like with Jakob Poeltl with his screen setting, there are spacing offsets, right? And so you think to yourself, spacing is just about putting a better shooter on the court, but very often that better shooter creates worse space because they're way more predictable. RJ Barrett is not easy to stop. RJ Barrett is not predictable. RJ Barrett is not soft. RJ Barrett is also not unassertive. There are guys that the Raptors put on the court that will take 8 shots in 40 minutes. Volume creates pressure, right? Like offensive assertiveness creates pressure. RJ goes downhill every single time. It creates pressure. You can't just leave him. You can't ignore him. So you have to guard him. He forces teams to guard him. That in and of itself is a huge godsend for how often you're going to see teams just reluctant to double Ingram, double Barnes in the post, help off of quickly, etc. Yeah, it's small things, but it's obvious things, right? So onward and upward, there are some teams in the Eastern Conference right now that maybe aren't playing their best basketball. I don't think the Raptors are necessarily playing their best basketball, and I don't necessarily know if they will play their best basketball until Jakob Poeltl returns. But among the teams that are in the playoff picture right now, the Toronto Raptors have the best record in the Eastern Conference. So Cleveland is 5-5 over the last 10. Philly is 6-4. The Raptors are 6-4. Boston is 7-3. So the Raptors are second best among that mark. Boston is playing the best, 7-3, and the Raptors should know that because I think they lost to Boston during this stretch. The Knicks are now 5-5, and the Detroit Pistons are 6-4. So everyone's kind of playing like middle-ish basketball, like they're playing like 600-ish basketball over that stretch. And I don't know, man. Is anyone like really, really playing great on the other side of it? Well, the Milwaukee Bucks suddenly have Giannis back, so they are playing a lot better. Brooklyn is playing a hell of a lot better since beating the Raptors. Washington is playing the best basketball of their season, 6-4. The Indiana Pacers are the only really bad team in the Eastern Conference because they have lost 11 straight. But holy shit, like you have some teams at the bottom of this conference that are suddenly starting to make that play-in picture a little bit more competitive. And that's interesting. I think by the end of the season, it's very possible that Charlotte and Milwaukee will jump in, but it's like, who do they jump? Chicago is damn near a 500 team, and they are sitting in the play-in. So the Raptors can interpret this information a couple of different ways. Interpretation number one, don't sleep because one bad week and you're in the play-in and you don't want to be there because now you're fighting an uphill battle and you have kind of a tough schedule. So you don't want to be there. Interpretation number two is the East really is open here. So climb. Do your best and actually climb here, right? Like you're 6-4 over this stretch. I could make a very solid argument that you could very easily be 8-2. So if you were 8-2, you don't drop the game against Brooklyn, you don't drop the game against Washington, you don't drop the game against Denver. I mean, pick one of those games and don't drop like one of those games or two of those games. And suddenly we're talking about a very different team. We're talking about a very different narrative around this team, right? Think about what I'm saying. If you're 2 wins ahead, you are 23-13. At 23-13, you're a half game behind number 2. You're 3 games behind number 1. So again, these games against Atlanta, sweeping Cleveland, these mean a lot because these are the teams that you're going to be competing with at some point for seeding, whether it be for who gets 4, who gets 3, who gets 5, or whether it be who falls into the play-in and who doesn't. And at that point, it will help tremendously that your wins added losses to their column. It will help so much. So it's a great thing that the Raptors are 3-0 against Philly. It's a great thing that the Raptors are about to be, or hopefully are looking to be 4-0 against Atlanta. These aren't good teams by any means, right? But we've seen it with Boston turning around their season. We're seeing it with Charlotte. We're seeing it with Brooklyn. We're seeing it with Washington. We're seeing it with the LA Clippers right now. Is teams can get hot. Teams can get really hot. And you don't want to be in a situation where you're having to pray for other teams to have to lose basketball games for you to make the playoffs, right? So the Raptors have a golden opportunity right now. They need to lock in defensively. They need to keep sticking to their principles. They need to keep moving the basketball. They need to keep getting away from that tendency that allows the ball to get sticky, because there were times in this game where it did get a little sticky. Not gonna lie, it did get a little sticky. There was that fourth quarter run where the Raptors go on a mega run. I think it was like 9-0, 11-0 run, and right after that, boom, back-to-back possessions, super sticky. And yeah, I mean, look, people can debate all day whether this game was a result of neither team playing defense or both teams being unstoppable offensively. I think you found the answer out to that in the fourth quarter when the Raptors started to play defense. That's what it was. The Raptors far too often have come out with this sort of lack of physicality approach. I think the Raptors need to find an identity where every single night they can hang their hat on something. Be it your defense, be it your ball movement, be it, your main scorer, be it, your propensity to run. The Raptors very much shapeshift like a chameleon every single night. You really don't know if you're going to get this really high octane transition offense that runs at every opportunity, or you're going to get Emmanuel quickly dragging possessions, or whether you're going to get Brandon Ingram isolation after isolation after isolation, or there's going to be kick out, middle, drive, kick to the corner, shoot Brandon Ingram version of him. You don't know if you're going to get point Scottie or center Scottie. It's a very weird thing, but I think the stabilizing force has to come from the middle, and I think that it almost always has to come from your best player. I think Scottie needs to grab the reins of this offense. I really liked a lot of the stuff that he did from an initiation standpoint today. May not have loved some of his scoring stuff today, but I think from the position of being the first person to make a decision within the offense. I mean, there are a couple examples where I didn't love what they did. And if you want to take a really, really quick example, tomorrow's live is going to be pretty film focused in terms of what the Raptors are not doing right in these fourth quarters. But if you want to take a look at a possession that the Raptors had in the fourth quarter, hang on. Yeah, this is a zone possession against Atlanta tonight. And just take a look at this situation here. This was about 7-8 seconds of dribbling by Jamal Shead, which eventually gets over to Scottie Barnes. And now look at how they are guarding. Now, they are willing to ignore Grady Dick to cut the middle off on a drive for Scottie. This is scary times for the Raptors. Scary. If teams are willing to swing this far off of Grady, and your best decision maker, in my opinion, is not going to give the ball to Grady. And look at this pass, is being cut off by Vic Krejci. He's trying to cut off the angle to the pass, but also Onyeka Okongwu is right there to recover if Scottie is there. But they cut off this drive, and who is everybody syncing off of? Everything is being created by Jamal Shead's lack of shooting. It's right there. But imagine if Quickly is on the court or if Steph Curry was on the court or whatever. You're not This is a drive for Scottie. And this is where I think the Raptors need to find better ways to attack. Here, I think the ball gets too stagnant. Scottie holds. Just attack. Just kick right here or drive right into this double team and then run a handoff and kick it back to Grady. But Scottie holds it a little too long. Just holds it a little too long here. And it's just like, this is what needs to stop. This holding, like the 0.5 shit, it may not be literal because obviously, like, no offense is going to move at a reckless pace of 0.5 all the time, but it is philosophical. It is philosophical. When teams say play 0.5 basketball, it is philosophically to make quicker decisions. In a nutshell, this is not a quick decision. This is not a quick decision. And this is not a good decision. Handing it to Jamal Shead. Did anyone expect this to go in? It doesn't matter if it goes in. You're taking a shot that the defense wants you to take. That's the dare shot. Okay. That's a shot that they're willing to live with. Force middle, force collapse, kick, find better shots. Right. Again, you got 4 seconds left on the clock, but you've got a lot of time left on the clock when Scottie actually catches this ball, right? Like, how many seconds are on the clock when Scottie catches it? 8 seconds. With 8 seconds on the clock, 9.5 seconds in the game. One, you have to get the final shot, which you don't. And number two, you have to be able to create a better shot than this. So it's just like, this is the situation where, if you have a Donovan Mitchell in place of Scottie Barnes here, this is a rip through dribble right to the basket to the line for 2 points. If you have a Donovan Mitchell in place of Jamal Shead, this is a drive for Scottie Barnes. Because you have Scottie Barnes and Jamal Shead sitting at the top of your offense, because they are both guys that people are willing to live with shooting the basketball, it's just a wrong placement for these players to be. Scottie's in the wrong place. He should be where Sandro is. Sandro should be where he is. Scottie should be in a two-man action with Jamal Shead coming up. That will create much better. So it's just like, it's funny. Like, a lot of people want to blame RJ. A lot of people want to blame Quickly. Neither one of them are on the court right now. And this offense is still struggling to beat his own. So it happens a lot. Look, of course, every team has a bad play here and there. The Raptors definitely played more good than bad tonight. And I hope that they continue it on Monday. Tomorrow, I am looking to do a dissection, a film breakdown of some of the things that have gone wrong with the Raptors' fourth quarter offense. And also for our members live, I would like to do something for either Jacoby Walter or Grady Dick. I haven't made up my mind yet. It's been very interesting. The last 2 days have been very interesting. Decided to take a whole bunch of time off to just replay Red Dead Redemption on PS3 of all systems. So fired up a PS3 and started playing Red Dead Redemption for some reason. And just really interesting, driving a horse around and just completely disassociating with Pendants, with Pensare Basketball, with the Raptors, with everything, and just honing in on a completely different reality. And it's been very, very, very therapeutic and good. I think it's been very good. Emerging from it a better person. And, it's funny. Sometimes patterns emerge in our lives and we don't necessarily spot them. Like the Raptors' fourth quarter offense predictably falling into a lull against good defenses is a pattern, because human beings are on the court, human beings are coaching the game, and these human beings have certain ideas. And I was noticing, I was like, man, there was this insane period of productivity and prosperity in my life between like early 2019 and like mid 2020 prior to the pandemic. And I always look back on that. I'm like, man, what happened in me that made me so disciplined, that made me so creative, that made me so ambitious, that made me so healthy, that made me so forward thinking, that made me so happy during that period of time. And I remember that right around 2019, I had had a surgery, and right after the surgery, I became like a vegetable for like 2 straight weeks and did nothing but play video games. Just did nothing but play video games. But unlike other times where I would play video games, this video game stuff was like very therapeutic because it was like cinematic style video games like Hitman and Red Dead Redemption and GTA. And it's like there's a storyline and there's an investment and there's a character that you identify with. And it was just very cool. I don't know. It was very cool. So, shout outs to video games for, sometimes allowing you that brief pause away from your own reality so that hopefully when you come back to your own reality, you can see your own reality and say, huh, why is that bookshelf there? I don't read, things like that. So I'm very happy for that. Obviously, a lot of work to do. Pen dance, Pensare basketball, panel, tons of work to do. Um, but it was really, really cool to just, sit on a couch with my girlfriend for like 2 straight days and just play Red Dead Redemption. It's been really cool. So, shout outs to you guys. We'll be back to the lives tomorrow, and you can expect more regular lives from this point onward for the rest of the season. I guess, with the exception being end of February, last week of February, early March, which is going to be Penn Dance and Penn Dance Wind Down. Penn Dance tickets go on sale next week. So, yeah, to people who are members of this channel, there will be a members discount. So, if you guys want tickets or passes, your passes and tickets will be heavily discounted. And you can reach out if you are a member of this channel or have been a member of this channel from before January 1st. You can reach out to me for free Penn Dance tickets to any screening of your choice. And that you have 2 tickets to that. Never really included that before, but that's going to be a really cool perk of being a member of this channel. So, yes, Red Salute said it's so addictive. Red Dead Redemption 2 is the greatest game of all time. Do you think so? It's the greatest game of all time? Damn, that's cool. Yeah, should try Spider-Man. I actually think I do have Spider-Man because it came with the PS5, but I never played it. It was in it was like a code, but I just never downloaded it. Is Spider-Man really good? I don't know. It's interesting, like when I was younger, we had like Sega Genesis, N64, etc. And very often these systems would like come with a game. But when you open up the package, the game is actually inside and it's like a physical media and there's like a game inside. Now, when it says it comes with a game, it just comes with a freaking code that says go download the game. And then I just didn't download it. I'm not really a big fan of like downloadable games. I'm old, man. Yeah. Yes, just chill and swing around the city. I do remember a former Spider-Man game, I think for like the either the PS2 or PS3, which was not very good, but I've heard some good things about PS5 Spider-Man. Definitely have to check it out. Apparently I have it, but it's in a box on a code. So definitely something should check out. But yeah, it's something about these cinematic games that have like the cinematic story, like Last of Us, Red Dead Redemption, Uncharted, God of War, uh, to some extent Assassin's Creed, I guess they're interesting because they have like RPG elements, but there's also like the heavy rain element where you make decisions. Like in Red Dead Redemption, it's a pretty linear story, but there are decisions like which mission do you want to do? Which mission do you not want to do? Do you want to be like a badass? Do you not want to be honorable? Do you want to be honorable? Do you want to kill everybody or do you want to, you know, do you want to save everybody? Like it's interesting. Like there's moral stuff. Video games are great, man. Keep a man out of trouble for real. Just don't abuse it. I don't. Yeah, I think one of the things that I realized, just like kind of reflecting on life a little bit here, is that I don't think it's the bad food that kills you. I mean, obviously within reason. Okay, I'm not saying that you should fry everything and eat fried food every day. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like for the most part, I don't think like it's the fried food that kills you. I don't think it's like the sugar that necessarily destroys your life. I don't think it is necessarily, you know, um, I don't think it's like I don't necessarily think it's those things. I think it's like it's the emotional tape and cycles that you play through your head every single day. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not good enough. You'll never be good enough. They're judging you. Da, 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 da. The same kind of downloadable, playback loop that kind of goes through your head every single day. I think thoughts drive misery or prosperity, depending on which thoughts you decide to play. And there's like a tape that runs in the background of all of our minds. And I think there's psychology, there's actually provable like data to say that 95% of the thoughts that you have on a day-to-day basis are cyclical thoughts, which is to say they are repetitive thoughts. They're the same thoughts that you had the day before. They are regrets, they are remorse, they are fears. How will I pay my bills this month? What if so and so leaves me? What if this person doesn't like me? What if my parents didn't love me? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just like the download, blah, blah, blah. So to break the download loop, sometimes what you need to do is you need to take a vacation. You need to go to Aruba. You need to go to the Bahamas. You need to live in somebody else's house. They need to live in your house. Change your environment, change your thought loops. When you go back to your old thought loops, suddenly you'll be able to better see those thought loops. Because when you see something every single day, you don't really know what's really happening. If you want proof of this, think about this. Your parents never noticed your growth spurt, right? They never noticed it. Your grandparents noticed it right away because your grandparents don't see you every day. So when you shot up from 5'8" to 6'2", your grandparents were like, oh my God, you had a growth spurt. But your mom kind of just saw you every single day. The gradual change is the one that kills you. So my point is, these weird things that happen in your life, the gradual ones, like the habit that becomes worse and worse and worse, is like it can become 1% better every single day or become 1% worse every single day. But I do think that sometimes it helps to take that sort of hard pause away from your typical thought patterns. It's like a vacation away from yourselves. In like Seinfeld, they said, like, we're gonna take a vacation away from ourselves, we're gonna grow mustaches, et cetera, et cetera. And then Jerry and George eventually decide it's the stupidest thing that they've ever thought of. It's actually not that stupid. It's a great idea. You should definitely take 2 days to not be yourself. Be somebody else for 2 days. Think like somebody else, eat like somebody else, go to places that you never gone to, and just make decisions like somebody else. And your whole brain kind of resets. They often tell you that when you're struggling to solve your problems, you should help somebody else solve their problems. Why? Because you stop thinking about your problems. And then when you come back to your problems, you're like, oh my God, the solution is so obvious. It's right there. Life is so fascinating in this sense, but it's also so not obvious. You know what I mean? Anyways, I say all that to say good win for the Raptors. 2026 starts out 1-0. As far as I'm concerned, we're winning a championship, man. 1-0. Undefeated. Let's go, Raptors. Um, it's good, man. It's good. The Raptors are a good team. I look forward, I'm reminded this team has 21 wins. It's possible they get 30 wins in January. It's possible. It's not necessary, but it's possible they'll be north of 30 wins by the end of this month. So, like, at what point can you start investing in like, this is real? Let me get my hopes up for like, a playoff round. I don't think that stuff matters, man. I think it's just like enjoy the journey, enjoy the growth. You have a young team, you have a blossoming all-star, borderline, all NBA player in Scottie Barnes. It's getting better. Brandon Ingram is really turning a corner here where he looks awesome. And hopefully RJ Barrett is like back and healthy and Jakob Poeltl can come back and we'll see what this team can be, man. But I tell you, as much as I talk well about the Knicks and as I talk well about the Pistons and I fight back against this idea that the East is wide open because I'm like, man, what about the Pistons? You got to respect the Pistons. I got to be honest. I don't really respect any team in the Eastern Conference. There's no team that really scares me in the Eastern Conference. There's no team that's just like, wow, that team's amazing. Like, the Pistons are really good. The Knicks have been good for the most part. The Knicks are a really good team. These teams are better than the Raptors, but they're not scary. So I really hope that the Raptors choose to buy the trade deadline or choose to upgrade at the trade deadline. And I hope that this really rough stretch and this really good stretch taught them a lot about themselves. Namely, that you need some better creativity, you need fewer shooting liabilities, and you need better athletes, man. You need better decision makers in the middle of the zone. You need to, I think this zone defense stuff is really funny, as I mentioned earlier, because it shouldn't work in the NBA. But the fact that it's working in the NBA should be everything that Bobby Webster needs to know about this team in a lot of ways. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great night. I'm actually going to go back to playing Red Dead Redemption, or I'm going to go to sleep. I haven't decided yet, but I will talk to y'all later and look forward to the live tomorrow. Peace, y'all.